just to give you an update, we had a member of Atheists for Liberty who had been fired, who had been told that he was going to be fired from his job at Verizon Wireless if he didn't get a vaccine. He didn't want to get a vaccine. He was told that he was going to be fired, and his religious counterparts in the same organization were told that they could take the religious exemption and they weren't going to be fired. So we organized, Thomas Sheedy and I, we just organized several volunteers together. A couple of lawyers donated their time. We put together a letter and sent it off. We got an immediate response that our member had been placed on the not that our member was not going to be fired, pending all the rest of the things that are happening. So I'm very happy to have that person, that member, Patrick Wilmers, on this video, and I'm going to bring him on in a second. And I also brought on his wife, who is also an atheist, who also refused the vaccine, and who did lose her job while religious people kept theirs because of the religious exemption. This is a big issue. This is a husband and wife both facing religious intolerance, religious discrimination from two different companies at the same time on the same topic. This is why I think this is such an important issue. This is why this is a widespread issue. So please listen to these folks and listen to their stories and spread this around. We need to raise money, frankly, for legal fees for the lots and lots of people who are going to be coming in. Frankly, the Supreme Court came down and said that that the Biden administration couldn't mandate it for over 100 employees, but a lot of companies are coming out and saying that they're going to mandate it. We need to make sure that they treat religious people and atheists the same way. OSHA has come out and said that they're going to try a different way to enforce vaccine mandates since the ruling. We have to be there to make sure that atheists and believers are treated the same way, that if believers get religious exemptions, atheists get secular exemptions, because we are equal people and you don't get special rights just because you're religious. Please take a few moments and listen to this video. Listen to these two people. They're not crazy. They're not racists. They're not absurd, okay? They're just trying to live their lives and have the same freedoms that their religious counterparts are having. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we have to do this. And that's why I'm really, really pleased to be working with Thomas on this very, very important topic. Please donate to Atheists for Liberty. If you're a possible plaintiff, if you or someone you know has been fired or been threatened with being fired, and you're an atheist or not religious enough to get a religious exemption, that's religious discrimination, and you should call Atheists for Liberty. And if you're an attorney who would like to help and donate your time, please give us a call as well. Thanks for listening to my pitch, and now here's the interview. Thanks. Okay, so thanks for both of you joining me on this show today on my channel. Pat, we're going to start with you. I really want to just get an idea of the human interest behind what we've been doing recently. So tell us about your story, and tell us about the change of your status from you're about to be fired to you're not going to be fired.
Well, first off, I got emails from Human Resources stating that the mandate dictated that if we didn't get vaccinated, we'd be let go. They gave us a certain date. That date was pushed back with some of the lawsuits that were filed and judges putting a stop to it. They came back again with some more emails stating that I would be let go within a month.
And what kind of a job do you do?
I'm a technician for a cellular company.
Okay, and so do you work with a lot of sick people and infirmed people when you work?
I work with nobody. I go to cell sites. A lot of them are in rural areas. So I don't see too many people at all. I could do my job without speaking to anybody physically in front of me. Okay. I go to a gas station, I put gas in the truck, and we go to sites. I've got coworkers I might see in an office, but I don't have to even see anybody.
And so when you get this letter, what are the exemptions that are offered to you?
There are medical and there are religious. And I know some of my coworkers applied for the religious, and
Did they
some
get
of their
them?
well, in the emails they said that they would be able to come in and test per week,
Oh.
and they got different emails than I did. I was told I was going to be put on leave without pay for about a month, and then I'd be done. And all the time, my human resource contact didn't even know this was happening. They were coming from above her, and my boss didn't know. That's what was very confusing and upsetting, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then, and again, so your religious counterparts were offered a religious exemption. You were not offered a religious exemption, and you were not offered any sort of a secular exemption. Can you tell me, was there any sort of discussion around that?
yes, I sent emails to Human Resources asking about those questions. Why can't I have an exemption? Why can't I test? Why do I have to be let go and they can work? They came back and told me that they are going with what the government recommends, that they're going to stick to that. That's exactly what they said in the emails. So, yeah, it's very strange.
So then Atheists for Liberty steps in. We sent the letter, and tell me about what happens then.
Well, we had some conversations and decided that you would move forward with a letter to Human Resources explaining our position,
Mhm.
that we would, and also you went and looked through Minnesota law and found that there was a discriminatory practice to do what they were going to do, not giving me an exemption, but giving the religious an exemption.
Oh. And what happened after Atheists for Liberty sent in the letter?
Got a call from my contact in Human Resources, and she said, nothing's happening now. You're okay at this time. Things could change at any moment, she said. This afternoon it could change, she told me. But at this point, you're good, and you've got a job.
That's great. That's great. How did that make you feel?
Good. I'm very happy that they took this on, that there's an organization that is supporting people like us. And I'm very pleased, and I thank them.
And so you're a technician. Are you an anti-vax person? Are you an anti-vaccine person?
No, not at all.
No.
In fact, I had chicken pox as an adult, and I'm looking at maybe getting that vaccine for shingles, because I've heard that's pretty nasty. As you get older, you can get that. So I am not anti-vax, not at all.
So it's not that really anybody's business, but why did you choose not to get the vaccine for COVID?
Because it's experimental. I mean, it's been admitted now it's experimental. There are a lot of people that have been damaged by it, and there's evidence of that. And it's just something that I didn't want to do after. Well, here's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that I watch. There's podcasts. There's people that I read. And the things that Penny and I were told early on all came true. Everything about the variants spreading, giving people this vaccine in the middle of a pandemic would cause variants. And that's exactly what happened. Things like that. And I'm convinced that this thing isn't safe. And plus, hey, I had COVID.
You had what?
Penny and I had COVID, and
Oh.
we recovered from it. So,
all right.
I'm not,
So I'm really glad that we're doing this video, because I want you to tell your story. Your story is not finished yet. You could be fired at any moment. I'm glad you mentioned that they referenced the government. In there, they kind of handed off the representation there. And that is where the separation of church and state comes in, right? It's one thing if it's discrimination against atheists. It's another thing if it's discrimination against atheists from the government. And so the Supreme Court came down and said that the government can't mandate big businesses do vaccines anymore, except in the nursing industry. And so we have our other guest. And I'm just going to use that as a segue to segue over to Pat's lovely wife, Penny. Hi, Penny.
Hello.
Penny's sitting there so patiently while we went through Pat's story. But your story is pretty compelling as well. So Penny, if you would like, please, if you would, please tell us your story.
My story is I am a nurse. I have worked in a hospital for close to 34 years, would have been 34 years, November 9th. The memo came out to us that we were required to get the vaccine. I believe it was in August. And our choices were get the vaccine or put in for a medical exemption or a religious exemption. And we had to do that. I don't remember the exact dates. I was told I could continue working until September 30th. That would be my last day. And I could, should put in a resignation if I wasn't getting the vaccination. And if I
They weren't going to fire you.
No. If I put in my written resignation, that I would be able to collect my unused vacation and I believe my unused sick pay. If I did not put in a resignation or put in for a medical or religious exemption, then my supervisor would put in a resignation for me. And then I would be technically resigned from the hospital. I did meet with human resources to say, hey, I'm not resigning here. You guys are firing me. And I want to keep my job. And I was told, well, to keep your job, your choices are get the vaccine, put in for a medical exemption or a religious exemption, or we will put in a written resignation for you. And I said, so you're firing me, you're terminating me. No. And so anyway, I ended up being terminated. September 30th was my last day of work.
And when they said put in a religious exemption, was there any mention of you don't actually have to be religious, all citizens are entitled to apply for this, anything like that?
No.
No. And do you have former counter? So you're terminated. You were fired.
They say the hospital says I resigned.
And so you didn't get unemployment?
No, I was denied unemployment. I did apply and I was denied, stating I did not follow policy.
And your religious counterparts?
They are continuing to work if they got a religious exemption.
You know this for a fact that you have religious counterparts in your organization that are still working today because of the religious exemption?
Yes.
And you were not offered any kind of exemption to that effect?
I was not offered. I did not apply for it because I don't have a religious.
Yeah. So both of you, husband and wife, two different jobs, two very different jobs. Penny, why didn't you want to take the vaccine? Would you like to say? You're a nurse.
I'm a nurse, and from what I've heard and what I've seen and heard, it's not safe right now. I don't want to be one of the trials, and I believe they're trying it out on us without consent.
Yeah. That's my dog chewing his bone. I'm sorry if it gets on the tape. But I mean, just not to digress, I had my shot. I have my booster. I had my third shot, and my first two shots didn't make me sick. My third shot gave me a headache that is still with me a month in, and it's kind of messed up, you know.
Mhm.
So we're in the situation where both of you, two separately, individually, have both experienced religious discrimination. You've both been, Pat had his job endangered, and Penny, you had your job taken from you and your unemployment taken from you, while your religious counterparts did exactly the same thing that you did, but said their God wanted them to do it.
Yes.
That is religious discrimination. That's against all sorts of laws. And I'm sorry that happened to you, Penny. And I'm sorry that's happening to you, Pat. And this is why I came out of retirement, frankly, because this has to be addressed. This is something that, this isn't something small, and this isn't something rare. And if both your individual organizations are saying they're getting it from the government, that may make it a separation of church and state issue. OSHA is supposedly not doing this anymore, but if OSHA wasn't, if Verizon Wireless and the company that employed you, Penny, made this decision on a corporate level, and they're just blaming the government, just passing it off, then we're going to see these companies continue to do these mandates. And I am not. I'm a vaccine person, I guess, but mandates are illegal. Okay, and you own you, and you don't. And even if my or somebody else's opinions disagrees with yours, that doesn't mean it overrides you. So let me ask you both. Do you know other people in your situation?
Yes.
Tell me about that, Penny, without naming names, of course. Like, do you know other atheists who've been fired where religious people were kept?
Oh, not other atheists. No, I just know a couple of other people that chose not to get the vaccine and chose not to file for religious or medical exemption. And I know one of them is very religious, and he still chose not to put in for religious exemption.
Now that's a different story, right? That's not a story of discrimination. That's a story of choice. Right. However, it would be, and it should be mentioned, that this is the case for somebody who is religious, but not religious enough. Right? If there are any situations where you have to, certainly it is equally illegal to discriminate against somebody for not being religious enough as it is to discriminate against somebody for not being religious at all. Mm-hmm. So if you're a religious believer and you file for an exemption and your exemption is denied, and that would put you in the same class. This is a very big issue. Pat, do you know anybody else in this situation?
No, I've got coworkers that are younger than me that did not want the vaccine. One of the coworkers was really sick, really bad, and he knew he had some immunity because he was really sick, but he had to get the vax to keep his job. At this stage in his life, he had to do it. That's forcing him, and otherwise he had, he'd lose everything. Right. He's got a wife and kid and everything, and he had to do it. Well, he's a little bit ticked off, and he doesn't want to get a booster either. And there's a story there behind him. He's got an aunt that got the booster in the hospital, and she died right after that. She was elderly, but he's convinced it came from the shot. And there were several other people that we've talked to that have had that happen. My father had a heart attack after the shot, and yeah, and he's having problems right now, and he's convinced it's from the booster.
My headache right here has been a month.
Yeah,
it's been a month.
Yeah, that's so there's something going on other than just your normal. These are not conventional vaccines. Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to mention. People are carrying this and spreading it. And now that they're shorthanded in hospitals, they're letting people that are symptomatic work. And that's been all over the news. So this makes no sense that Penny doesn't have a job.
Oh, yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, so none of this makes any sense. And the thing that I'm going to concentrate on is that in this nonsense, atheists are treated equally to religious people. You are two very good examples of atheists who have not been treated equally to religious people. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to make sure that people who are moderately religious are treated equally to very religious people. Because I don't think anybody's doing that either. And I think we're all in the same boat here. And I think we're all on the same team, frankly. You know, the bedfellows have all changed. So listen, I really appreciate you coming on and doing these shows. Do either of you have any comments that you'd like to say before I let you both go?
No, I think we're good.
Other than, what bothers me is being told that because I would not get vaccinated, that I don't deserve to have my job or be in healthcare. And that I don't care for people. That is so wrong because I dedicated my whole life to nursing.
I can imagine what that's like.
Yeah.
And then to say that the people who are religious, who are in your exact situation, they do get to keep their job and to be in healthcare.
Right.
And that is bullshit.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
It is. Yes, it is.
Well, I know, Penny, you will be attending the march this weekend. I hope you have a wonderful time. I wish I were there. But I'll be there with you in a secular spirit, for lack of a better word. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll be spreading this around, and if so, before I let you go, if anybody out there knows anybody like Penny and Pat, anybody who has been fired or who has faced discriminatory vaccine mandate practices where the atheist or the less religious person is being treated differently from the religious person, giving a different option from the religious person. If atheists are being fired and the religious people are staying at the corporate level, or if they're getting the information from the state or federal level, we're here for you. Atheists for Liberty is here for you. And we are going to be fighting this. And it looks like we're going to be fighting this alone, but we're going to be fighting this. And we're going to be making sure that religious discrimination stays out of these COVID vaccine mandates. Thank you both, Pat and Penny, for coming forward and being a part of this. I'm sorry you're going through what you've been through. Atheists for Liberty is going to try and make it as better as we can using our limited resources, but we're going to do what we can. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank
Thanks.
you.